Hello and welcome to this review GM plan session for the Broken Worlds, episode 2 I should say. So if you haven't watched episode 1, spoiler alert, and if you are watching this review show, massive spoilers, because this is where I, as the GM of the show, take you through my plans for what I'm going to be doing in the show, in the adventures that I'm planning for my characters. So we're going to move straight into that. There is no need for us to delay. And the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to swap on over to the planning session that we have already put up. That is the second half of the adventure. Now, we planned this adventure to take roughly two sessions worth of the stream, which is obviously 4 hours, so that's probably one session for most people. This is our breakdown of the actual adventure as is featured on worldanvil.com. If you are a member of World Anvil, you can actually go and find these notes. If you want to, look for the Broken World Chronicles, and you can join in there and have access to pretty much everything that I load up into the World Anvil the World Anvil Broken World Chronicles pages. You'll have access to my notes and things like that. You'll see that we have our plan. Act 1 was to introduce the characters to everybody. We've kind of done that in a very chaotic way. The next was to introduce the enemy, the Clack Clack Door, that bizarre insectoid race. They're there, but I personally don't feel that they've necessarily been really dealt with, and that's something that I want to really drive through in today's episode. So you're going to see how I'm doing that. We introduce the situation very much so that the castle is surrounded by the Clack Clack Door, and that there is a swamp that they can try and escape through, and that our heroes have to get a message to the town of Feldun that the castle is under attack. So that is definitely something that we need to have a look at. That is what's going to be happening in today's show when we look at Act 2 and Act 3, which is going to take us in. Act 2, of course, is that they've now got the information. They now have to get through the swamp. We dropped the idea of having the old satyr, Huthan, escort them through the swamp, because I decided that the swamp was going to be as big as originally had planned it, and so we don't need a guide there. We do need them to get to the temple of Elysiae, where that's the goddess of light and purity and safety, and they're going to find that it's overrun with refugees hiding from this Clack Clack Door invasion, so that there can be much more of a sense of terror and trauma and difficulty that they're going to have to face en route in this journey, in this adventure that they are participating in. Now, Act 3, we've got a false ending. Now, this is something that's going to be tricky. I am going to have to make sure in this episode, and then in the next 2 hours, I'm going to have to make sure that there is some suspicious activity by one of the individuals in the refugees, because the false ending, I don't know if you can see it too clearly behind me. I might be too big in the screen. Let me try and get out. Oh, wrong way. Let me try and get out of the way. I want to have the fact that there is a false ending. This is a 1-2-2 adventure. For those of you that do watch my content, a 1-2-2 adventure. So we've got a false ending, and then we have the real ending. And the false ending is that they are going to arrive at Feldun to find that the city of Feldun is already under siege by the Clack Clack Door. This is the complete idea, is that we are trying to introduce, as we established in Act 1, we're trying to introduce that the Clack Clack Door are a massive, gigantic enemy that are particularly dangerous and very, 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 very powerful, and that they are everywhere. So we're trying to establish that, bearing in mind our players' characters have not had the advantage of being able to watch the history of the world, as you can if you go onto my YouTube channel. You'll see there is a video on the Broken Worlds introducing my tabletop RPGs. There's a whole history there that they can have a look at. So We need to show to the player characters that the Clack Clack door are everywhere and that that is a major threat and a major danger. That is not, however, the conclusion of the adventure. The conclusion of the adventure is that we are then going to move into that second part of the conclusion, which is where we realize that within the group of refugees that they have hopefully saved, that's my plan, is that they're going to save that. Now, if you look at my players, I've got Freddie, I've got Kai, and I've got Michael. Freddie is playing this paladin mixture type of thing. Watch out for it. We're going to be releasing character bios and backstories and player bios and backstories as well onto the YouTube channel. So go and find those. Those hopefully will be out by this week. That's what we're aiming for anyway. We're looking at characters who are ostensibly good. So I'm hoping that they're going to pick up the refugees and they're going to take the refugees with them. So in order to do that, I'm going to use some rather manipulative GM techniques. And if you're watching this video, you need to watch out for this during the show itself. I'm going to introduce some children that are going to look up to the characters as heroes. I'm going to have some kind of moment there that I'm building in to get the buy-in from the characters. I'm going to have some elderly people who respect the shifters, and I need to establish that there is this final showdown character. There is this sympathizer of the Clack Clack door embedded into the refugees who betrays them at the very end. I need to get the characters. I need to get the characters out of this world. We're done. It's a setup mission. That's all it was. It was designed to get them running, to get them going, and to get them into this world, this broken world sort of idea. I don't need them to linger. I don't care about Felden or Tungay Keep. That was all just set up to give them a sense that this is the kind of space that they have entered into. So I need them at the end of the mission to use the remaining stones they have. I think they've got 12 of those rough stones. They're going to use those last 2 stones to then, the last 6 stones, I should say, to jump away. They're going to try and get away from this unwinnable kind of situation and discover where they have ended up, so that we get a sense. Basically, in the first session, if this was a session around a table, by the end of session 1, our players should leave the table going, oh my goodness, this is the type of environment we found ourselves in. We're having so much fun. We want more. We want to come back. That's the ultimate goal, is that they're having fun and that they want to come back. And of course, that you as the GM are having fun. And in this case, I certainly am having fun, enjoying seeing how this whole thing is going to go through. Now, I do need to raise this so that you are aware of it and don't sort of find out too late or later on. We are running a Patreon to support the cast. We do want to pay the cast for their time. They are all performers in their own rights. They've all got their own bits and pieces to do. So we have got a Patreon going. Now, if you sign up for that Patreon, you can, at certain tiers, create NPCs, and you can decide whether the NPCs are used for the party or against the party. So they're going to help the party or they're going to be against the party. So that can be quite a fun exercise. And most importantly of all is you can submit your own broken world to me and I will add it to the list. So the way that we're going to be doing this is unlike a regular campaign whereby I have planned out a large master plot as per my usual process. And if you don't know my usual process, head on over to the YouTube site. You can see the Campaign Creator Series, which is where I'm taking you through a process of creating an entire campaign. It's not the Broken Worlds campaign, it's a completely different campaign because Broken Worlds is slightly different. The way that Broken Worlds is going to be working is that there is going to be a table, and we have a table already, but we are going to have a table of all of the potential worlds that the characters could travel to. So if you are a patron, if you're supporting the show, you can submit your own world to that list. When they jump, if they don't have the address that they are jumping to, if they don't have the alignment of the stones correctly, they will just jump randomly. We will roll on the table, and wherever that happens to be, bingo. That is where they're going to end up. And so what that does is, from a GMing perspective, is that it means that my adventures are going to have to be incredibly based on PCs and NPCs rather than on environmental factors, because I don't know what those environmental factors might be. So my game plan, my bigger plan for the Karos Stones, when you run too many campaigns, my bigger plan for the Broken Worlds is one where they are discovering individuals that are responsible for things rather than where they are discovering discrete kind of events and things that you would normally run through. That means I can then take my NPCs, if I've decided, okay, they need to meet this particular NPC for this particular reason, that NPC will be translocated into whatever world they're jumping into, as well as then on the fly trying to come up with adventures for that particular environment. So we're only running for 3 months just to see how this whole thing works, to see whether you guys are enjoying the show or not, to see whether the players are enjoying the show or not. So in that space of 12 months, they might jump 4 or 5 times, they might jump 8 times, they might jump more than once in a session. They might jump into a world, look around and go, no, dinosaurs is not a thing. We're jumping straight away, and then they jump into another world. So they can go through multiple iterations in a single session. They could get stuck in one iteration for 3 or 4 sessions, but that's how it's going to work, without a doubt. That's the plan that I have. So it's going to be interesting in terms of these GM planning sessions where we look at it and we say, okay, they jumped last session out of that world, they've jumped into this world. How can we take this world and break it down very quickly? So I'm going to try and plan those sessions in the half-hour break just before the show. So for those of you that are only catching this, for those of you that are only tuning in now, this is going to be rebroadcast on YouTube as the whole show does, absolutely correctly, as it has been before, so you can go back and catch what has been said so far, if you don't mind. So there we go. I see there is some commentary coming through. This is a live recording. I'm going to increase the volume of my microphone, so you tell me if that's better or if that's worse, and we can take it from there. Now, that's the plan. I have actually got to the end of discussing what I'm going to be doing for today's show because I've kind of gone through it. So if you are watching on YouTube, this is live on Twitch every Monday night at 6 Pacific Standard Time, and this is a half hour before the actual broadcast. It's actually 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. I need to change that because I think that might be a bit confusing. So from 5:30 until I'm basically done with the plan for the day, until 6 is when we do the pre-show. Then we're going to have the actual 2-hour show itself, and then after that, there's half an hour with me where I go, well, that was what was planned. This is what happened. How did we make that? How did we fix that? How did we save that? And we can then go from there. The advantage, of course, of joining us on Twitch is that you can then interact live. You can see my eyes every now and again drifting over to the screen there where I can see the chat going through, and the chat is lovely and active, and so there we go. So if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching this review. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and the goblin bell if you want to know when these are coming out. If you want to get a little reminder, that's fantastic. If you haven't joined us on Twitch, I suggest you come along and join us on Twitch so that you can participate in the conversations.